honestly wish I wasn't going through this. I honestly wish it. I, for some reason, I'm going through this shit. I'm going through it. Okay. Going into surgery. I can't believe I chose this path. But I have to. I have to get this path done in order to realize something. And I don't know what it is until it's done. Until the surgery's done, until everything's done. Okay. I forgot where I left off in this, but let's talk. Um, let's talk. Yeah. So, in order to claim a certain area, it's almost like a game. It's not like I'm gonna carve out a piece of Montana for myself for my little farm and shit. No, it's not about. It's not that. It's a game. It's a slick, sly, fun game. So here's how. Okay. I got too much going on in my head. I got too much going on. But everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. That threw me off my game real quick. Oh. Okay. Let the games begin, niggas. Okay, hold on. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? Okay. First person to break me out of this prison. First person to fucking fix my kidney for me. That's fact. First person to fix my kidney, get the cleanest waterway. Get the first access to the waterway. The fuck? Alright, where was I? Okay. Ross said something on his channel. It's so funny because everything that he was about to say, I was about to say. Not everything, but like the way he communicates it, it's almost like he wrote on the schedule, on the like know where I'm about to go. That's crazy. Um, so we have I was on a roll and then I forget. Mm. Give me a second to recuperate my thoughts. I want you the right way. And I want you to walk just like I want you. Okay. Okay. The right way and the wrong way to do things from both a masculine and a feminine perspective. The analytical approach to restructuring land is in restructuring your children. When you're in the process of restructuring the children, it's the minds that meld and mesh to become one. If your children are catty and mean to each other and jealous of one another, and it's because of what is being reflected to them as good behavior. And in my opinion, if you are that way, you are no king. A king leaves petty jealousy emotions to the side. He looks at it from an analytical approach and he conquers the mind of men first. That's what Obatala energy is all about. You know, the calabash, the man in the white cloth, the cool tempered one. You know, sit back and smoke his little shit. Let him be. I'll handle it. I'll handle it. Cool, calm, and collected, all while inside he transforming his his approach of how he's going to approach each and every kid that he has. One thing I pride myself on is my ability to produce consciousness. I find it to be fun. I find it to be fascinating. I find it to be as if I'm writing a script for each and every one of a tree, a bird, a human, and it's all finding a way to meld together into a melting pot or a big, beautiful blanket full of color. But if a nigga only know how to paint with gray, if a nigga only know how to paint with one color, and he can't figure out the rest of the rainbow, he shouldn't own a waterway. He shouldn't have access to be able to own a business. He shouldn't have access to be able to thrive in an economy that is built for men who mastered the mental manipulation game. He shouldn't even be in the field. He should be sitting with the ducks. Quack quacking, nigga, no. And the 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 biggest thing that I take from this, like, Obatala man energy, like, he understands the hemispheres of the brain, where the child is. Like, if he's talking to somebody and he's like looking at him, he's sizing them up. He's sizing them up from the perspective of, yo, where is this man mental game at? Where am I gonna put him on a squad? Is he a threat? Is he a this? Is he a that? He already manipulated the mind enough to figure out his weakness in 2 seconds. You know what weakness he has in 2 seconds, just by shooting the shit with him, playing dominoes. But it's a fun, happy game. It's not the game where it's like Caesar stabbing niggas, in the back. Nah, it's not. It's not like that. It's more of a, I see you as my my opponent for my queen. However, I'm gonna take my time and figure this situation out in order for me to get the best for our children. Because the ones who have the best children, the best well behaved children, the mama always used to be up in the house. Because the man and the women, they have separate houses in this where this dystopia comes from. They had separate houses. The mama had the big house, the big white house. The daddy had this house. The daddy had this house. The other daddy had that house. And based on what kids was the kindest and the sweetest, the mama would be there all the time. And that would make the other husbands jealous, but it would also help them to reformulate the brain matter of the children, to to reorchestrate it. And then you'll have somebody, children who are really good at music, and so they're always putting on a show. They're like, "Mama, you coming to see my ballet performance? You coming to see this?" You go over here, and somebody was always doing the science experiment. So it's like, "Hey, we're about to manipulate this into this and see if we can actually get it done by da 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 da." And then the mom, in her mind, she's like, "Dang, these kids are smart," because the dad reformulates the mental for the children. And that's how the clans are forming. The clans are all based on what the father deemed that uh, lineage to have the specific good identity at. You're really good at this. This clan is always really good at fucking rowing. This one's always good at this. This one, it's separate. But then when you take it out of the context of the United States, once the man and the woman get into the um, passion zone, once they get into that zone, you're talking about uh, time hopping. Let's maybe not time hopping. Let's look at it from time zone manipulation. That's a good one. Time zone manipulation to, let's just say, the timing in Tokyo is 3 o'clock. The timing in New York City is midnight. This is where you start to own markets, different markets outside of the stability of the gold current. And you create gold currents external, and you have uh, access to all rainbow elements in order to recreate the um, in order to create more, to expand your mind. Because the man's mind, much like the wand, is ever expanding. Like, until a man really fucking realizes that you can actually grow with that by studying, by being smart. Because it's all about, you have a goal in mind, right? Your goal is to get to this point within the feminine, to get to this point, which is a straight away to the left with a little click, and then you get the key to open that time zone, right? So his studying and what he was doing within Thoth's organization is manipulating the feminine matter from an external perspective in order for the telescope that he has to be able to transverse realities. I really hope somebody really understands me because I feel like I feel like nobody really getting it, and that really upsets me a little bit because I'm still sitting in this fucking hospital. I thought I was in Hawaii. It's a nice little vacation though, but still. Uh, so let's talk about waterways and access points. As above, so below. If you're able to access a waterway from internally, from a feminine internal, and that's where the water seeps out. It's almost like you're giving birth, becoming the surgeon to give birth to that area for the feminine. You know, that lake is actually as above, so below. That lake is representative of what is transversing within the bedroom because the feminine always turns into a rainbow after it rains. She turns into a rainbow, and all of those colors can be manipulated by massage and love and communication and certain times and the pitter patter of the aftershock of explosion. So you're becoming more of a delicate keeper of time as to not upset the mother of nine, as to not upset the great balance of the body of Christ, right? Christ, again, I've said this before, is just the christened one, the one who has been deemed the internal body of the world, right? Everyone has their own everyone has their own versions of reality. Everyone does. When you say to somebody, "Oh, this is the right answer. This is the answer to the puzzle. This is the right answer." In their storybook, that could be the wrong answer because they are the keeper and controller of their own destiny, right? They are the keeper and controller of their own destiny. You're going to be fine, trust me. This is just a small little thing. No chicken wings. So I know I keep comparing these two uh, identities to um, I keep comparing these two identities to okay, let's scratch that. Um, so then we also look at the mother and father relationship. The key to Thoth, the key to Thoth's intellectual, because Thoth is one brain together. All of the men form one brain together, and that's the brain of the universe. And each one of them are responsible for keeping a waterway open, keeping it clean, keeping the pineal gland able to access the water. They are basically forming the head of the state, right? The head of the state is split up between the 13 men. And from them, they have their own structures that go, and that becomes uh, the connectivity of the neurons and the neutrons between the brain. So that's what they become. But their ultimate goal is to keep the heart and the brain balanced on one scale. If the heart is like, oh, hold on, why is this person getting all the attention? Why is this feminine getting all the attention? What? Tuesdays is my day. If he can't control his if he can't control his affairs, he can't call himself a leader. His affairs have to be in order. So this is why it was always like, uh, mommy and daddy would always get mad mommy would always get mad at daddy because daddy was out having affairs. He was out having an affairs, but the affairs wasn't being controlled because he was manipulating the heart of the feminine instead of keeping it in the mind, figuring out the mind game, and then saving his heart, protected for his feminine. But he would, get so deep into time and he'd be like, I'm in love. This is beautiful. And then she turned out to be one of the flowers that eat men. She turned out to be one of them. And then he called his wife. Can you help me? I don't know where I'm at. Fuck you, nigga. I told you not to go into the heart of another feminine. I told you. But you wanted to play. So play your game out there in the street. You can be a dog. Chase the cat. I'm not gonna deal with it. And then mommy and daddy would break up for like years and years and years. Finally, daddy get to the point where he understand he don't about that lie. He only fuck with the mind. It's only brain banging. It's only mind banging. You don't fuck with the heart. Because he know mama will cut him off. The waterways will close. It will dry up. Once a pimp, gonna be an old man with a limp. Once a pimp, gonna be an old man with a limp. Because you're controlling the mind, but mother's controlling time. Time will speed that ass up and you will fucking learn a lesson. You'll be sitting there like, damn, I had it good. I had it good. So this is why the keepers of the time, the husbands of the heavens, were supposed to be just specifically for the feminine, just specifically for the divine feminine. If that's what the path they chose. Some people don't. Some people are like choosing a different path where they can have like multiple wives and create their own realities from that perspective. But most of the time it gets twisted up because they don't know how to balance. It's like putting a king on the queen's throne instead of him just having his own little kingdom set up. Queen's throne. Thus propelling the patriarchal identity that men have since they got the staff, that they can control the weather. I mean, hey, it worked for a certain point in time, and then they realized deep in the forest there is a woman, a wise old woman, an owl, who didn't really want to fucking sit on the throne. I didn't want to sit on no fucking throne. I just wanted somebody to chop down the trees so I can get out the forest and build a house. I didn't want no fucking throne. It didn't matter to me. I'm sitting in a hospital bed. That's my throne. I sit outside on a tree. That's my throne. I don't need no throne. I could fight over that shit. I just need somebody who know how to fucking ding, ding, ding. Done. I built you a house in 2 seconds. Oh. Anyway, so let's talk about waterways. I hate talking about waterways because it's like we're going into a whole different subject. Let's do it. Once a man controls an ocean, he controls, it doesn't say control an ocean because you cannot control an ocean, but knows how to work with the tide, the moon, the turtles, the dolphins, knows how to work with this very feminine element of uh, water. He'll discover how to turn salt into honey, not gold into money, but salt into honey, the ocean water, making it sweet water. That takes a lot of studying to turn a feminine element that is very harsh into a feminine element that is very passive and loving and kind. He knows on certain days, mommy wears yellow. On certain days, mommy, when mommy wears red, we have to do this. Because subconsciously, she's picking these colors for what reason? Why is she eating what she's eating? Why is she craving what she's craving? It's almost like studying the microaggressions of the matriarch in order produce produce an outcome that is favorable for the long run. But that takes a lot of mental planning. It takes a lot of obsession. It takes a lot of obsession, you know, in order to be able to understand the structure of her identity because the mother is wild. Her land is wild. Her children are wild. So the men is about restructuring the brain and the formulation of the identity of what this area is going to be about. What this like it's like building a city, but from your mental first, and then from the physical. Because we already did the spiritual build. The spiritual build is done. So now we're slowly transgressing into the physical and reformulating, remolding, manipulating the matter of earth in order to say, okay, well, this is no longer Chicago. This is the heartland. Heartland because of this, tying it back to the motherland, tying it back, you know, really manipulating the game from that perspective. But everything comes from a microaggression level. Mommy rolls her eyes at daddy one time. Mommy rolls her eyes at daddy one time, right? That means she's irritated at something he's done, but she's not communicating why she's irritated at him because she is in a different space. So, how do you get into the mother's headspace in order to get what that tiny microaggression, the seed of hate is, and take it out and surgically remove it? Servitude. Everyone's saying, well, not everybody, a lot of people talk about a man doesn't have to cater to a woman. A woman doesn't have to cater to a man. They just do their own stuff. They focus. Imagine you have been beat year after year after year after year. Something bad happens to you. You get to the mind frame that you believe that you do not deserve to be catered to. That's the mind frame that you get into. How do you get out of that mind frame? You work yourself out of it, but then you see the character of someone else. If they're seeing, if they already worked their way out of it, and then y'all work together, right? Y'all work together. You know what? I'm just sitting here. Let me just massage her feet really quick. It ain't no big deal. Let me talk to her. Let me get a connection. I know that her feet is connected to her brain. So me massaging her feet is getting into her mind. Who thinks like that? Niggas don't think like that. They don't think like that. studying Chinese medicine. Study Chinese medicine. Realize how important tea is for the health of the feminine. How important the leaves are. Before you put the hot water in there and activate the shit, how important is the actual element that you're working with? Hey, babe, I'm about to make some tea. You want some? You don't even have to ask, baby. Add a little honey. He's like, I know how you like it. A little honey and a little milk. A little milk and honey. Okay. Okay. Oh. And I know that people think of like, oh, this is just a fantasy. This is a fantasy. This is a fantasy. No one can actually know Christ. No one can know God unless they're willing to seek from a micro perspective first. And then they get to the larger picture. You can't know God. So he gives, he's more of a, he knows that the feminine's going to take care of him because he knows he needs to work. And from a masculine perspective, the work is carried from when mama gives the sweet water, daddy has enough joy and pep in his step to go and rebuild Cincinnati because Cincinnati is hard to build. Cincinnati is located on this, and daddy already know that. He knows Cincinnati is important. We playing Monopoly, right? They wanted to play Monopoly. Where's Boardwalk Empire? Where's the boardwalk? Where's Broadway? Where's all of that located within the the physical planes of this ship? Where know the if you once you know the world, you know the body, but you'll never know that you know until you're balanced on both heart and soul, heart and mind. But what happens within the familial structure of the feminine, the masculine, is what is copied on the external world, on the plains. You have the buffalo, the buffalo repeats the story. The buffalo have their own storyline. The chipmunks have their own storyline. You're going back from what you were studying within the feminine room, within the feminine, um, passionate environment, and you're using that to copy and paste these separate storylines within external reality. You're planning children, asking the feminine, I want a baby. I want to have a child. You studied? Did you do your homework? Every man want to lay down and fuck something and then have a baby and not know how to pull the seed out of the kid so the seed can actually grow into a graduate. And da 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 da. They want to feel euphoria. That ain't euphoria until you had a bitch fly your ass to the motherfucking sun and set your ass on fire, put your ass back together, and then put your ass back in your body. You ain't had no orgasm, bitch. That is reserved. If a bitch ain't got no wings, that's why they call her the eagle eye. You gotta have wings. You fly them up to the sun, put them on a cross, open them up, pull out all his organs, and replace it to make him a god. That happens every single time you orgasm. A male orgasms within the feminine identity. That is the peak of knowledge. To have somebody split you apart, put you back together, and like the brain of is the most exciting. Like I studied the heart, I've studied the chest, I've studied the muscle, I've studied the body really, really well, but it's that brain. brain. The ticks and the crows and the knocks and the like it's I could just sit and study the brain all day. Now, if a man knows how to access universal coding, if he knows how to access universal coding through his brain and make the orgasm more complex, because men can build their own fucking orgasm. Women can build it for them too. But we are the light that light the shit. We light it. And then their brain just and it's like a card game. And then this is where this is where sports live. With the matter of the man. All laid out. And this is how you manipulate the game. This is how you manipulate the game. This is how you choose your team. Through orgasm of a man. Some of them are so like mice. You know mice? Yeah. They're mice. And mice don't have the understanding of more complex emotions because everything is built on emotional values. How well you handle, how well you manipulate emotion, how well that you study emotion, how well, because the feminine has already mastered the emotion. She's become erratic. This is why when when a woman is pregnant, her hormones go all out of control because she's learning how to manipulate what's inside of her, and it transfers into the external of how she acts while she starts crying because she's preparing tears for this future kid who's gonna do this. She already know, but if she paid for it while she's pregnant, if she cries while she's pregnant, she won't have to pay for it in the long run. If she's very emotional when she's pregnant, she won't have to pay in advance for those, or she's paying advance for those emotions in the future. So she won't have to overreact when the kid turn out to, get some girl pregnant. When the kid turn out this way and the kid turn out that way, she won't have to worry about that because she already paid when she was pregnant. Now, if a man studies a woman while she's pregnant and sees how her emotion manipulates, he'll be able to see in advance. He's going to be a doctor. This kid's going to be a doctor. He'll be able to study based on what she eats while she's pregnant. He'll be able to manipulate, be like, yo, if I give her this and she's going to start craving this, he's going to turn out to be a lawyer. Because we need a lawyer in our family in one generation, because the landlocked grid is going to be on 10, because all the men are going to be like, I want my son to have this, because most of the men start having sons right away. And they save their daughters for last. They save their precious, precious stones for last. And they take their boys and they help them dad to build the land because they have boys, right? And then after they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna treat my woman more delicately, so that I can have a delicate flower that's gonna brighten up this area in Fiji, mind manipulation. It's a long playing field. So the um, the more that they saved that energy for the the more they saved that energy for the feminine, from Thoth's perspective, not from all men's perspective. I'm talking about from the husbands of the heavens, though. The more that they save that identity for their feminine, that's the more they have to give. They have more to give, more money, more time, more plans, more, they have more energy to give because they saved it during the blackout. Because once everything goes black, that means mama has stress to the point where she shut down the matrix and she turns on the back end of the matrix. The back end of the matrix is the shadow world. When she turns on the shadow world, we're fucked. That's where you're getting, the elites, global elites running shit. It's just a computer program that y'all have to learn how to beat. If you learn how to beat the computer program, then you could get back into the light. But as soon as that means that daddy was acting bad, all the thoughts all the thoughts was bad, all the kids was bad. She shut down the whole fucking tribe and she put on a computer program. And y'all had to work your way through the fucking matrix. That's how crazy she is. That's why daddy has to be very careful. It's like a time bomb. Mommy's like a time bomb. But it's a fun game for him. seeing how far he could go on the fucking tightrope. But then they started losing their commitments, started losing their focus, because then they started figuring out that they could, marry the daughters of the mother. They create through that way. I used to get so angry. I used to get so angry. Before I figured out what was going on, I would be like, I'm your wife, but what are you doing over here? What's this? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, I can't explain it to you right now. I can't explain it to you. You always ask for so much in the shadow world, but you want us to try to fix the shit on the front end. And I'd be like, but you Captain Save-A-Ho, right? You want to go save Lana? You want to go save Nip Girl? You want to save all these girls? You want to do it? This is what you wanted. You wanted hella wives. You can have hella wives. Go ahead. But the access to heaven has been cut off. It used to get so heated from a debate perspective. Because I wasn't always right. Trust me, I was not always right. There was days where I would have like 20 goddesses take over in one go. 20 in one go. Let me show this thing. Nosy ass bitch. 20 goddesses in one go. So a man would have to manipulate and figure out which goddesses were needed something at that one point in time. He would have to go, and that's a lot of work. Shit. But my mama said, if you don't work, you don't eat, nigga. My mama always told me, you don't work, you don't eat. Shit. Because the only way that the true, I don't want to talk about that, but I'm going to just do it really quick. The sacred fountain of youth comes from the feminine juices. That's why when I would see The Rock drinking that Zoa drink, I'll be like, let me see you drink it. People always like, why do you like watching people eat? Why you always like watching people drink? I'm seeing something. I'm seeing if this flashback that I'm having is finding a way to fucking pin itself within reality. I'm checking on something. Dang, y'all hella fucking nosy. I'll be in the comments. I'll be like, you have to take a sip. We have to see you take a sip. We gotta see you take a sip. Because I'm trying to see something. Dang. Every time you take a sip of that Zoa drink, I'm like, connect the dots, Zanisha. You go here. Let me show you something. Let me show you. This is my name. Want you the right way. ZONNISHA. Okay, that's my name. And I go by Z, which is Omega, which is the end. Always in this form, I'm Omega. I'm the end. Right? So let's take out so the name of the drink is called Zoa, right? But let's take away Anish. Anish. ONN. No. Nisha. No. Niche. Niche is what comes out of Zoa, right? Niche. Niche is a specific area. Specific area is going to be Tonga, Hawaii, already claimed. He claimed where he wants to be based on based on the name game. You got to name what you want. You can't just walk around and be like, you got to be clever with it. But the niche area he chose is based on what roles he's picked. King Kamehameha, he just picked that role up. That took a lot of energy for him to get that role. That's very, 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 very difficult to master. He was an amazing, amazing king. He was an amazing king. Why I hold Hawaii to a high standard. But anyway, but you look at it from the perspective. This is how I'll be looking at it. So if I go onto somebody else's page and they're talking about dollar signs. They're talking about dollar signs. So I go into my name and I say, okay, well, which one is my dollar sign? I have an S in my name. So if a nigga talking about money and I ain't concerned, you take the S out and you got a Zon. A Zon is a planetary system that revolves around, a planetary system that revolves around other star constellations. That's what a Zon is. So he's talking about by taking out the money out of the situation, he's talking about a HOA or HOA, which is another housing form, a housing development that he wants to be a real estate broker, a builder. So it's all based on what they talk about. I use my name, the final name. So, for example, somebody who is who practices Santeria, right? So you take the S out. That's the saint. You take the saint out of the Nisha, the Zanisha. You take the saint out of the planetary system. And then you manipulate matter through the A. So that's alpha. So then you have to have letters. Letters is like, you go to this Greek fraternity, you go to this Greek fraternity, then you're mastering letters from Santeria, right? It don't make sense, but it makes sense. It is all based on the name. So, for example, another one of my masculines, um, he talks about katatsunisatos, like Japanese culture. So let me show you something. So when I think of like the Japanese culture, I think of this place called On. It was a long time ago. On was the on switch to a virtual reality that was a training world within Zeta, within Z. The training world was On, and On was like the, you had to you had to go to learn how to make tea. You had to go to learn how to, you know, study the Japanese culture from a microscope. So if he's like, posts him in his uh, his Japanese regalia, that means, oh, I'm going to On. Do you want to go? So then I would send an A, and that would be yes, I'll be there. So it was all based on my name, and you would break down my name based on the knocks in the culture. But the culture is so finite that men can't, unless you're like really inclined, you couldn't figure out the system. Yeah. And then I would break it down to numbers. And then I would go into like 7, 2, 4, 8, 9, 21, 12. And I would just spout these numbers and they would have to figure it out. Shit, I couldn't even figure it out. My brain would go so fast. Anyway. So then you got to approve the waterways to get to certain areas. You can't get to On unless you go to the Pacific. Pacific is ruled by this person. So it's like a breakup of the not mental, but the spiritual world first. Once the spiritual world is broken up into who could carry the most, then they keep those buckets. And they pass it on to their children as they get older. But like Rob on 13 Times was talking about, he was talking about water, how important that is. I was like, I've been talking about the river access. I was like, there's a river access in Washington that can get you back and forth to time. Washington is where the water of life is located. To make you young, to keep you young forever. This is where it was located. I put it here specifically because I want to be able to access the spirit of it in order to provide it through cherry wine. And cherry wine for each husband happens once a birthday. Once on their birthday. When the star alignments line up to where they are, where they're located. So like you say you chose Michigan area down to fucking New York area. That's going to be a whole new region, right? It's a new region. So you have to be able to connect that region to Washington, where the head house is. Because if you don't have access to that waterway, the waterway of light, so there's the waterway of light, there's the waterway of the dark, and there's a waterway of rainbow. Mix them all together, you get cherry wine. Mix them all together, you get cherry wine. Together, that gives you eternal life. On a 3, Mother Maiden Crone. Crone is the black waters. Spirit waters is the mother. That's how she gets all her children back and forth. And then the maiden is the rainbow water, access to all of the brain, all of the pineal glands of all the children. Water, 3 waterways together. When I was before I came to the hospital, and I went to the Monk Mansion. I went to a point in Oregon where 3 waterways meet the feminine. That drinking that water or being near that water gives you more life. So that's why I didn't actually die because I went to the waterways. I went to the waterways and accessed a 3 point star in the middle of the forest. And I want you to want me to, just like I want you. I want you the right way. Mhm. All right, we're on 1155, so we're right on par. Let's hit it out the green. Okay, so how do you want to restructure? Oh, oh, something's telling me to talk about the children. Talk about that really quick. Now, the children like to copy mommy and daddy. You know what I'm saying? They like to play house at young age and stuff like that because they are photocopies of the mother and father, just intertwined genetics. So the mother and the father sees that the children are starting to want to play house, right? Children are very observative. They're very sneaky. They're very uh, wanting to replicate the familial structure within their own world in order to recreate mommy and daddy's story, right? But you got to be very careful because you you have to make sure that you govern how they play house because how they play house is how they manipulate time when they get older. So you have to be very careful of how the children play. So this is why it's best when mommy goes into her own world and she plays puppets with the kids because she's taking herself out of the picture and putting the dolls up and showing them this is how you really play. You don't focus on the sexuality of what mommy and daddy does right now. You won't worry about that until you go to school and start learning about that from a school's perspective because I believe that sexuality in uh, should be learned and taught in schools. I know that's a big deal to people, but when they get to a certain age, they're in the dark. Don't leave them in the dark. Put some light out and make it fun, make it like easy, make it easy to talk about. Don't hide shit in the corner because that's how uncles start touching kids. That's how that's how shit happens because you put shit in the dark. But you bring that shit to the light through schooling them, you know. Um, so this is why how mommy and daddy communicates is very important because this is why they need to communicate. If they're angry or if they're heated, it has to be coded because the kids are smart. It has to be coded. It's got to be coded deep too, so that the kids ain't figuring it out as easy. You know, it also helps them to reformulate their, spirit mind while they're listening to mommy and daddy, not back and forth, right? because knocking is very important to consolidate a heavy amount of information into a small part in time. So managing how your children play is crucial for the development of the mind because you're formulating the heart of the child, the heart of the matter. While daddy's formulating the brain, you're formulating the heart, and you're creating a coexisting identity of light. Leave everything out in the light. Don't hide anything in the dark, right? If you have a feeling towards somebody else, you address that feeling. You communicate that emotional connection and be like, I think he's cute. I want him to be my boyfriend. What does boyfriend mean to you? How do you how do you evaluate that in a child? You know, the child looking at mommy, giving daddy a kiss. How does that look to the child? And how do you make sure that that stays child state, that it doesn't progress into anything more as child development, brain development continues? It's how mommy and daddy separate their world, that world, from the kids. The kids can be as curious as they want, but mommy and daddy has to have the secret, the private, dark space that they manipulate time in, that the kids cannot get into until they are at an age where they're ready to marry, start their own land, their own family, and stuff like that. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he gets older, he will not depart from it. Mommy and daddy had separate rooms when we were growing up. We didn't understand why. They had separate beds, separate rooms. Because daddy and mommy at night would play cat and mouse games. Cat and mouse games. Mommy would go knock on his door and run back to her room. And daddy would be on the hunt because mama wouldn't be in her room. She would be somewhere else, so he would have to go find her. Flip it to the dark. The owl is sitting in a tree watching the mouse. The mouse don't know that the owl's watching and the mouse about to get eaten. But the mouse is a clever mouse. The mouse knows how to transfer his consciousness into a wolf. The wolf knows how to see the manipulation in the dark. How you transferred it instead of transferring it from the kid perspective, you transfer it to an animal. It goes back into the animalistic perspective. Then this is why they created the familiar structure the way it is. Same house, one partner, because they know that you can manipulate reality when you have more than one. And I'm not saying that it's bad for men to have multiple wives and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that. You create your own reality, do what the fuck you want. But in my world, in my motherfucking world, the queen's on her throne. She playing the game. She manipulating matter. Because I hid so many stuff within the animal kingdom. While y'all was too busy being like the mouse pressing the button for the orgasm, getting all high on that shit, I hid it within the motherland. So the masculine. There's a lot of games in the dark. There's a lot of games. And that's where it should be more animal, putting the animalistic needs of the feminine masculine back in the animal kingdom instead of placing it within this fucking matrix where kids are getting from. It's like who manipulated the fuck out of this system to make the most disgusting thing. Motherfuckers, insane men took over the system to add their perversions as normalcy. And y'all followed them like, this is fun. You don't go to the full moon unless it's a full moon. You cannot reach the cavity without full moon being there. You cannot plant the seed on the moon unless it's a full moon. Otherwise, you got bears popping up uh, um, in hot climates when they supposed to be in a polar bear. They supposed to be in a cold because when you in a cold, you never get old. And you can play with a penguin. You can play penguin games. Penguin games is on the black and white. It's a different feel. It's on a different feel. Transferring consciousness into that. You're playing a whole different game. It's like being in a multi-dimensional hyperdrive shift, some wild shit when you go into the penguin games. It's fun though. When I set that up a long time ago, I set it up to multicolors and I made the outside black and white. You think that the penguins just there huddling cold. Nigga, they in a different world. They on beaches and shit. The penguins is not cold. That's just a simulation. So y'all think leave them alone. Them niggas like it cold. Leave them penguins alone. Shit. They just the butlers. They the butlers. Go give me some fish. Produce this egg. Do this for me. Do this for me. They just the butlers for the internal world. Inside of they chest cavities. It's a different world. So this is why I set it up for each one of the thought energies. Each one of the thoughts is going to be able to access certain parts of the animal kingdom, but that's based on what they choose from the earth perspective. Like they want to rule China, they want to rule this. So depending on what portion, that's the game I play. That's the game we play on the black side, based on where they pick. Because they've studied, they've maneuvered, they know the animals, they know down to the like micro mushroom level to the highest peak in the mountain. They know all of it. They've familiarized themselves with the area so that they can demolish it and rebuild it to where the dream between the masculine and feminine, the masculine and feminine becomes reality from the earth perspective in order to transfer the reality back into the animal kingdom. Animal kingdom is where you keep a large storage of your information in the animal kingdom. And that's where you start playing the pole games. It's a lot. But the pole games, if you think about why do men go to strip clubs and you see women naked and all that kind of stuff, they're mathematical motherfuckers. They're mathematical. They see things differently in shapes and sizes and knocks and knockbacks and how the feminine provides beautiful images for them to look at. But it's a trick. It's an illusion. Most men get obsessed with the knocking, but they don't see the illusion that's being created from a feminine perspective. You know what you can create with pheromones? You can create anything with feminine pheromones, anything, in order for the illusion to stick. But you need honey, right? You need honey. So you go to a strip club and you're like, I smell beer and I smell perfume. I smell all of this stuff. It's creating an illusion for you. You are building a block of an illusion. But it's only when you knock on that one bottle. I'm a genie in a bottle, baby. Cup, cup. And I open the bottle. Go through that illusion. You don't stay in there. That's the den of thieves. That's the den of thieves. I always thought it was funny that the men would just obsess over the geometry. When women get on the pole and they like, spin around, they're creating shapes and other things and trying to show you that they can build a life for you. Everyone's like, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. She know how to build a house with her stilettos on. But you just gotta be really careful because it's just an illusion, baby. You could turn them into a housewife. Just feed them what they need, money and ego and all that kind of stuff. But you're creating your own illusion. But you got to get past that. Look at the woman who has the degree in. What's up? Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Take your vitals, okay?
Okay. You got to look at the ones who've chosen the degrees, the stars, the women who pledged, And it's funny because manipulation of feminine identity is hard but easy at the same time because you have to master the masculine first. This is why fathers are very important in the feminine life. Because in order to master the masculine, you have to master the mental of the masculine. When you always hear these girls say, I'm a daddy's girl, I'm a daddy's girl. She's a daddy's girl because she's figured out how to get what she wants from daddy through mental manipulation. Once you figure out getting the mental manipulation, you can figure out how to get through the matrix of these men who built these, big Fortune 500 companies. If you are a daddy's girl, you could figure that out in 2 seconds because daddy already trained you how a man thinks.
Amen to that, sister.
Girl, tell me about it, girl. That's why they took the dads out of the household of the feminine because they knew that if the dad teaches you how to get through the matrix, you're more likely going to be a boss ass bitch by the time you're done with it, and you'll have your own companies. Thank you. So, when you get back to how the household is structured within the identity,
Perfect.
when you get into how a household is structured, feminine teaches, the children, the hold on. The feminine teaches the children when they're young, teaching them how to play, how to have, their dolls, how to, cook, all that stuff. But then once they get into that teenage years, the dad has to take over a lot because the kids are trying to figure out the mind. They've already figured out the childhood, the mother worked them out of the childhood trauma by playing with them. And now the dad has to manipulate the mind of the child in order for them to find structure within external organizations.
I'm a little high. I went till 134 over 95.
So let's just say you graduate high school, you go to college, right? When you're in a collegiate environment, there's no structure until you build it, right? The structure comes in when you start pledging under certain stars, you start pledging under certain flags. And then they disrupt everything that your father and your mother has put you through, everything that the father and mother has put you through in your household. They try to disrupt that. That's why they have called hazing. They haze you until you fall, until you falter, right? And you lose your identity. It's all about restructuring your mental so that they can build a Barack Obama, so that they can build a Ken doll to play mind games with, so that they don't have to, right? So this is why sometimes I don't believe in the college level unless you're doing it as a mockery in a sense. Like I can get through this shit in 2 seconds, I'm done. Because your mama and your daddy have created such a solid foundation for you to stand upon that the child games. I talk gray, I don't keep it white and black. I talk gray, I don't keep it white and black. Always say I love you so I can hear it back sometime. That's why I used to love Drake. Drake used to copy the shit out of something. I won't say nothing else, but when the mom and the daddy had the structure and they created it, and you go to college and they try to bang, 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 fuck the foundation up, but your dad got your mental and your mom got your heart. So if they get past a certain level in your mental, daddy about to pop up like a roaring lion. And this is why they call them the sons of Judah. Call them the sons of Judah, and they called the girls the helter skelters into not manipulating the heart, into not manipulating shit in the heart. It was a scary ass story because sometimes you need to scare them kids because they want to touch everything. Don't go in this fucking store, pick nothing up, or else you go sit in your room. But when the dad and the mom create their own identity within the children, that's the helter skelter. The mama is helter and the daddy's skelter. He a skeleton. And then the mama's a hell raiser. She fucking scary. So you get them together, that's a crown of helter skelter. That crown right there is scary. That's like if you mess with my kid and try to manipulate their matter and their heart and their body and shit like that, then I'm sending this for you. And it'll show up in the Matrix as Marilyn Manson or, one of these scary ass little motherfuckers. It'll show up in a different way. So that it's like the mother and the father aren't manipulating the shit. The identity that's created by you fucking with their kid, they are going to create the hell for you. So this is why the familial structure is so important within the world. The mother, the father, the grandma, the grandpa, the auntie, the uncle, the nieces, the nephews, everybody had their structural identity to hold up a portion of the sky. Your family is your sky. Your family, your brother and sister, that's your sky. So you hold them up together. You create your own capital. A family is a capital, right? That's where all the money goes, to the capital. So when the mother, the father get on the same page, we having our black identity over here. People don't talk about this shit, but as soon as you go into like dominatrix and like that kind of leather play and shit like that, that's a whole nother shadow world. That's a whole nother shadow world. Y'all shouldn't even have touched that unless y'all knew what y'all was doing. But the elites would mess with the shadow world through leather play. Through leather play. On that side of it. So when mom and dad finally get into their own little world and they're separating that structure from the children automatically think of it as a secret society. They're like, oh, wow, mom and dad goes on vacation for da 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 amount of time. Wonder what they're doing. They get curious. They nosy as fuck. But this is why similar structures are set up when it comes to twin flames, when it comes to people who are, uh, meant to be soulmates. You're not meant to want to study the sacred sex until you've met your match. Because if there's no match inside of you, lighting you for that fire. So, like, for example, yesterday, here's how it went. So the masculine, there was 13 masculines around the table, like a round table. Each one had to come up to the throne and offer a present, right? If the present was hot enough, it would create the chemical reaction between the masculine and feminine that would spark, and he would become a fire. He becomes on fire, right? That is confirming a flame. That's confirming a twin flame energy. Once that confirmation is confirmed, we're now in a chemical reaction of, borax plus this creates a foaming bubble. You're creating the element, the periodic table of elements from the 13 husbands and the one controller. The mitochondrial DNA is the controller of all other forms on Earth. She can mimic any shadow. If you can mimic a shadow, most people are talking about skinwalkers and stuff like that. In the native tribes, skinwalkers were very important. But if you take it from the, hyper, oh, what is that about? And put it into the shadow world, if a feminine can turn herself into any shadow, then she is considered the shadow woman, shadow mother, right? There's some women who can turn themselves into the shadow of a cow, some who can turn themselves into the shadow of a cat. They turn themselves into the shadow so that they can access the internal information of that animal, right? But there's only white. Only white can turn. White wolf can turn itself into every single shadow. But only one white wolf was born. Wasn't born. Okay. So now I'm trying to tell you. So every single the masculine that come up presented their stuff to them, set on fire. So this fire is almost like a gun, like you're on a race. It's like and then they have to figure out, sit in their cornerstone, figure out what they want and start planning so that when they get to the front gate of the feminine opens the door. It's like, what do you want? That starts, each one of them have to provide a wedding. Each one of them have to provide a plan for future development on a different planet. The amount of mental work that goes into marriage and wanting to marry the fucking queen of heaven and earth, that's fucking exhausting. That's fucking exhausting. Even I'm saying it's exhausting. I gotta look at all this shit. So better if they've reached the Obatala energy of organization, categorization, knowing what they want, go after what they want, and believing that they can get what they want, right? Everyone wants to manifest something. They want to manifest, 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 manifest. I'm going to manifest this. Did you go to the bank to get that manifestation approved? Instead of you just saying, I want it, I got it, dripping like water. How much money you got in your account? Did you check your spiritual bank and figure out how much money you got left? Or are you just manifesting because you want to manifest? I never really understood that. People just out here manifesting houses and shit. You manifesting this, but mama said that at the end of the time, we could build our own house. We can build whatever we want. But you over here playing on a matrix, selling your shadow work for pennies on a dime, when in reality, your card reading and all that shit that you was doing, you selling your work. You selling your shadow. So that means you can't manipulate time to go into be a shadow of a fox, to get to the socks, to get to the fucking World Series, where the World Series is controlled by time. Time puts all the kids in one World Series so to make sure that the White Sox win. But you sold all your shadow work. You sold all your shadow work. I told you I just asked for some donations. Ask for donations. That's it. It's easier to come from donation than to come from staying stuck and saying, I'm going to charge you $35 for reading. When in the spiritual world, the currency is 2 cents. It's 2 cents for $35. So you're charging the shadow work 2 cents for $35. You got to figure out the shadow currency before you can charge it. You can't just play the manipulation game and think that the currency is the same. It's not. You're playing with black water versus white water. Black water versus white water. But I mean, to each his own. To each of the kids his own. Because you create your own reality. Each of the kids create their own reality. So if you say, in this realm, I'm going to charge them, $35, but in the shadow realm, I'm going to charge them $8,000. You just manipulated currency through shadow work. Now, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm about to prepare for my surgery. I better come out the surgery, not gonna wood. Let me talk about mommy and daddy, and then flip that to the birds and the bees, and then the trees and the leaves, and then fall. We'll be done for fall, and then our fall classes will start. Oh, Zanisha, I love you so much. Thanks, Indy. I love you too, girl. Okay. So we're looking at the familial structure from I'm gonna burn my petition for you tonight. Oh, thank you. Burn it away. Girl, I'm about to go into surgery at 2 o'clock. So burn that shit now. But I'm gonna have 12 yummy. 12 yummy on the left, 12 on the right. So when I go under, I can't fall. So I did my work, my shadow work. I'll do it right now. Thank you. Thank you. So you're gonna have I'll talk to you about it later, but I was talking about creating a house for all of the women to be under one roof, all of my favorite women to be under one roof. It's gonna be like the old bathhouses. And you and your wife have to move in. I would love that. Yeah. Y'all all gonna be taken care of. You'll see pretty soon. Everyone's gonna be taken care of. I'm just waiting on my husband, my thoughts. Send you love all the time. Thank you. I think about you all the time too, girl. Making sure you're okay if you need anything. Your spiritual team needs anything. I see you were short your rent. I hope everything worked out. You smoking girl. 420. That was heck of fun. What's I say? Mommy teaches the child. Daddy teaches the young adult. And together they teach about how to manipulate the matrix to get what you want, to manifest what you want. To get what you want. So once the masculine men of the husbands of the heavens, figure out what animal they want to be, they can figure out what tribe that they want to be, and they can figure out what area they're going to control in order to get back to the feminine, in order to confirm the union at the feet of God, in order to go up to the heavens and be sacrificed, in order to be not sacrificed, be built. You know that the man in the circle, he looked like this. He looked like this. And it's a man, and he got his hands out in a circle like this. You know that painting? Let me see if I can find it on my phone. Anyway, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's all over the books. Elise, I only have 3 minutes left on lunch. I just wanted to pop in and tell you I love you and I'm praying. Thank you. Thank you. Look at you guys. Or something. Yes, Michelangelo. Look at you guys popping in. It makes me so happy. The Ninja Turtle. You silly. Silly. Yeah, that dude. Well, basically, I'm excited for you guys to move in. It's gonna be fun. All the feminine is gonna be under one roof. And we're gonna be free. We're gonna call it the White House. Anyway, so the masculine, once orgasm achieved, goes to the sun, and he's like hung up like Michelangelo looking creature thing up here. And he's split apart into millions and millions and millions and millions of different things to create a sun. If he wants a son. If he wants a son on a different planet, he has to die, but be resurrected during, because when you reach that orgasm peak, you're dead. Most people don't know that. It's like you're gone. But instead, it's the mother reformulating it, and putting you back in your body. through happiness and pleasure. This is where sweet waters are important. I've never had 3 people on my live at once. That's so fun. 3 whole people. Good looking out, y'all. It's a good omen. That means I'm gonna make it on my surgery. Hold on, let me look at it. It's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, y'all. That means everything's aligned. On the 4, on the Thursday. 4. You see all those 4s? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's on the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 4th. On the 4. So that's a good omen, not a bad omen. Yeah, Indy is a good one. I'll be right out of that surgery. Don't worry. I believe it. Um, so I think when it comes to claiming and staking a partial of land, it all goes through the water first, the waterways, and how to control, manipulate the matter of the mental in order for the waterways to be clear through to the pineal gland, and the pineal gland to be able to access to the mother, so that you have to be able, as a masculine, to mold the mind, not manipulate it, mold it enough that it understands that the father must have access to the deepest thoughts within the child's head in order to answer the question. So if a kid is like to you, what about this? What about this? Oh, mom, but what about this? What about this? What about this, mom? What about this? What about this? When a child is like that, you need to listen, study, help, communicate back, let them know you understand in order to build that foundation of trust for the father and the son, the father and the daughter, to have the bond and connection of the mother, which both of them have access to the pineal of the mother, and the mother has access to them. So, in order for that trinity to solidify, you must first have a bond between the father and the child to manipulate and mold the mental. Okay, so that's my 2 cents of how to claim land, how to claim a stake in water, how to claim a stake within the seed of the heart of man, which is pretty hard to do. You must do it as a child first, and how a man officially approaches the mother, the feminine, to open the door for them to start union. For them to start union. So that's what. Mm. Hmm. I'm gonna go tap into the future just really quick. One sec. All good. Future's all good. All secure. Want me to tell you something? If y'all ever see Secret Service arrive at your door, or like some black trucks arrive at your door, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Yeah, don't be afraid. It's supposed to be that way. Everything's about to start changing anyway, so I'm not worried. I just have to go through this, which could be, I have to go through this medical transition, which could be pretty scary for some people. If you think about the story of Jesus, you think about the story of Jesus, very funny. Crucified that boy. They crucified him. Who in today's world would be considered a Judas priest to classify Jesus? The medical field. But the fate and destiny has already chosen the course of action. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried. You know who should be worried? My husband. My husband. They should be. Because I was supposed to be here yesterday. With a cure. They were supposed to be here yesterday with a cure. And it's not. It's past yesterday. It passed yesterday. So I gotta go into surgery. And I gotta play the game. Manipulation game. I was hoping that the sacrifice wouldn't have to happen this time. I really thought it wouldn't happen. I was like, I rewrote the story to have a happy ending. It has a very happy ending. And they trying to shadow work against it. But I gotta follow the tags. You had a lot of children die. I still have a happy ending. You're there alone? Girl, yeah. I've been here by myself. I've been here by myself. It will have a happy ending. Thanks, Indy. Thanks, girl. Thank you, girl. Yeah, they don't allow anybody back here. They don't let my daughter come, my son come. It's like, prison or a vacation. You pick prison or a vacation. You choose. Shit. She said, what the fuck? Yeah, you got to be here by yourself. The nurses are cool though. I haven't seen my daughter in a week in 3 days. I've never been away from her this bad. This bad. Yeah, it's messed up. And I'm going into surgery. So I'm like, Sometimes I hate when they put me under, but I get the best sleep of my life when they put me under. I'll be out. I'll be in the garden, eating, just like. I'm glad we got to talk to sis. I'm open. They're about to prep me for surgery. Hey, guess what? Okay, I gotta go. Bye, guys. Bye, Andy. Bye, Elise. Love you guys. Pretty good.